We have an exciting episode. So you've been running a lot of SEO experiments. You've been integrating SEO with the rest of your marketing channels. You've been getting through Google's algorithm updates. You've been using AI for keyword research and for content strategy. And you've also just been persisting like crazy in marketing. And I want to hear about SEO experiments, the SEO experiments that you've ran, because I love SEO experiments. I love hearing about them. I love learning. And you emailed me some cool stuff. So
Yeah, no, definitely. I mean, if you are in this industry, either you love, learn, and keep up to date, or eventually you are losing the track of everything that is happening. And testing is one way, one critical way, I would say, and risk to say, to validate everything that we read out there. We have every single day tons of posts on LinkedIn, people claiming that they figure out something. And if you don't validate that, because it might be true for their reality, but each website operates in a different niche with different competitors in a different environment, and you need to validate what is true for your website. I always heard folks saying that you should have only one H1 on your website. That was something that everyone always shared. Only have one H1. The truth is, when testing, and when we are talking about test, is split test, which sometimes when you work either in marketing or product test is always A/B test. But for SEO, it must be split test. When testing that, and if you have more than one H1, it might result positive. It did for me, for instance.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. So
So what happened?
we experiment.
So for people who don't know, the H1 is typically the big top header. Sometimes people will code. I've seen people code their logos as H1s. Like, you see a lot of errors with H1s. Normally, you're just supposed to have one H1. That's like a best practice in SEO. And
Yeah,
if you've been in the game for a long time, you know SEO is nuanced. But so I'm curious. So you literally intentionally, like, everything else remained equal, and you put everything else was the same, and you put two H1s instead of one H1, and the one that had two H1s performed better than the one with one H1. This method of marketing is so effective, I had to make sure it wasn't against Google's rules before I kept doing it. It's a form of SEO I call compact keywords. Whereas most SEO focuses on putting up articles to answer questions how, what, when, compact keywords focuses on putting up dozens of pages that sell to searchers who are actually looking to buy. These pages rank on Google and convert so much better than normal that when I discovered this years ago, I couldn't believe this was allowed. It's less work too. The average compact keywords page is only 415 words. Compact Keywords is a 13-hour deep course on getting sales with SEO. A customer recently said, "Each lesson is dense with information. You're giving years worth of experience boiled down into 15 to 30-minute lessons with no filler or fluff. I feel like I'm gaining a new superpower." Compact Keywords is about setting up an SEO funnel that brings you sales for years and years and years. It works with AI, it's less work than traditional SEO, and it makes way more money. You can get it now at compactkeywords.com. Back to the podcast.
yeah, you summarized that perfectly. And yeah,
Well, so how did you test it? How did you run the test?
so when we run a split test, so let's take a step back to understand what test means. And you summarize that perfectly. You have one website and you do one change in one single change and in a group of pages, because Google will not experience two experience in the same URL. You have to create one control group with one group of URLs and one control and one test group with the different URLs. And for this test group, you must change one variable, and that might be having a secondary H1 or having I don't know, canonicals, or removing meta description, for example, and test everything. So for this H1, which is the heading one, is the main topic.
This was on two separate websites or on the same website?
Actually, I tested in two separate websites with
Okay.
similar results. But for the folks that are listening to us, once again, I start saying that each website is a website and you must test because it worked for me and I saw positive results. You cannot assume that you will see precisely the same because different websites with different problems, with different competitors.
Yeah, but the reason that we do these SEO tests is that we look for best practices and also seeing the results of the tests help us understand how Google's algorithm works and what is prioritized. For example, when Rand Fishkin is his legendary test, and he went to Twitter a few times and he's like, everyone go click on this result. I want to see what happens. Everyone clicks on the result in
I
a
did.
short amount of time, and then he's ranking number one a few hours later. And that stories like that, tests like that help us understand how Google's algorithm works.
Yes, but that's not a split test. And I went there
That's not a split
and I
test,
click
but
as well.
or the oh my gosh, I forget what it was called. It was shared hosting versus I think unique IP addresses.
Yes,
That's more of a split test.
it
And you
is
see that and you
precisely.
see that the sites on dedicated addresses perform way better than sites on shared hosting.
So in order for you to test that, you need to have a statistical relevant group of pages. You cannot just compare everything or different page type. You need to have very similar pages with very similar seasonality, with very similar, and it's quite easy today. Go to ChatGPT, ask ChatGPT to create a script to split test based on clicks from Search Console, and you have 16 months of data. So you can create a timeline to understand seasonality and then just pick a variable and test it. So I can run you through some interesting ones. So H1 was one interesting one that it was tested positive. I repeat the test positive in a different website, and I did more. I reversed the test, so I removed the secondary H1, and we decreased in sessions. So
What?
definitely a positive one. But there is
That's
another one.
crazy. Wait. Before you go to the next one. All right. So, you do SEO where, or you have clients?
Yeah, so I mainly in house, but I also do because do some contract work for some
Okay.
agencies
So
across
for
the
the
globe.
company that you do SEO at, when you do take clients, are you now telling them all to have two H1s?
I'm telling them to test to have two
You're telling them
H1s.
to test, but
Yeah,
you're not telling them to do it. What's the name of the company that you do SEO in house at?
so right now I'm working for a Canadian company named BuzzBud, BUSBUD, but I joined 2 weeks ago. Before
Oh, okay.
previously I worked for Eventbrite and before
Hmm.
Eventbrite for TripAdvisor. So in those,
When did you do this H1 test?
I think I can say. I mean, you can go to the page and see the
No, no,
to.
no. When? Like what
Oh
dates did you
well,
do it?
you will know because you can go to my CV. But it was at TripAdvisor. It was 5 years ago.
Okay.
5 years ago, at TripAdvisor, we tested it.
Okay. So when you got these success, because this is pretty surprising. So when you got these test results that say two H1s performs better than one H1, did you on TripAdvisor, did you start coding all your pages to have two H1s?
All the pages that I was responsible for, yes.
Wow.
So yeah, because TripAdvisor is such a massive website with different
Yes.
teams taking care of different.
And
Uh,
so when you started doing that at TripAdvisor, did you see, I mean, there's so many things that you're testing, I'm sure, but did you see the pages with two H1s in TripAdvisor also perform better?
the pages with two H1s,
Yeah,
yes, yes, uh,
really.
yes,
So let me ask you that. So that was 5 years ago, 2025. I don't know if you've tested this recently. Would you still do that?
yes. I still did for a different website, and
So 2025, you're still doing
it
two
was
H1s
it was in
deliberately.
2024 to be precise. It was
Okay.
this December 2024, the last time that I tested it, and it was still positive.
Wow. And so okay, so you're still doing two H1s deliberately because you found that it gets better rankings. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I'm not sure the why. I hypothesize here that Google and search engines understand two topics, and especially if the H1s are under the same umbrella, to work. Because here is interesting because you mentioned that some folks are using image as H1. I did not test image as H1. I tested as as a heading, a normal heading with text, with content there. And usually I test relevant. So I'm not going crazy and test to have a H1 that is completely different from the main topic. So there are a couple of nuances here that we need to keep in mind when testing. It's not just about, oh, let's have a second H1. It's also about the quality of that H1, I
It's what
guess.
is the second H1. But you're saying that both, yeah, so both H1s were related.
Yes. Yeah.
So could it be that it performed better? Well, okay, so I guess my second question is, did you try, so let's say you have two H1s on a page and then you have another page with one H1 and then a bunch of H2s. Did you try putting the same quality into the I guess the first H2 to I don't know actually, I don't know how you structured it. Was it one H1, a few H2s, and then one H1 and then a few H2s?
No, that's a very interesting question, actually. Yeah. Um, so I tested it in different ways, usually two H1s following one each other. So two H1s on top of the page, usually. Uh,
Two just straight together.
yeah. So
Just one on top of the other.
from a structure standpoint, yes. So you
And then, okay, so then did the ones that you were testing against, did you do one H1 and then an H2, and that H2 was of the same quality as the second H1 on
so,
the other
so
side?
basically what I tested was to have a page as it was with H1, with H2, H3, and then what I did for the test variant was just adding a new H1 without changing anything else. So basically, you have two H1s and then the page precisely the same as it was for the control group.
Well, could it be that it was just performing better because you've put a lot of thought into the second H1 and that second H1 was of high quality, and maybe you put more thought into those pages that had two H1s?
It is possible. It is possible. Those are the nuances when we are sharing our findings with everyone. Everyone needs to question like why did it happen? It was it because the secondary H1, or is there something else? Because now you have better quality or more structured quality on that page. It might be you might potentially assume that you can achieve the same without the secondary H1. You potentially can assume that you can do the same just having better content. You have to validate. You have to test it. I never did, but
Okay.
speaking with
All right,
you,
so
it
what
might be worth to try.
Yeah, cuz I mean, when I think about the way that my brain works when it comes to Google is I don't just think about the results of tests and um about best practices. I think about the reasons behind the best practices and I try to string those reasons together. And then that helps you have I would say, a much more effective understanding of Google and what it is trying to do. And when you have that understanding of the interests of the company, and then you think about it also from a searcher's perspective, then you make, I think, much better long-term decisions. And you also make decisions that are just better for your site and better for conversions. And so, like the way that I think about the background behind Google's algorithm is you want to have a technically healthy site because that is that is indicative of you also putting thought into the quality of your content. And it's just one part of the big puzzle that is Google's algorithms. But you have if you have a healthy site, if you have a technically healthy and technically sound site, it could be more likely that your content is also going to satisfy search intent, which is why when you told me two H1s performs better, I said, that goes against that goes against the background reasoning that I see for how Google works. So I want to unpack that and try to understand it more.
Yeah, I think the way you you structure your idea, it's precisely what I recommend everyone to do is try to understand why it worked in first place. What is the principle behind that? So I'm sharing obviously one test that is against what we learn and against everything that has been shared, and obviously is the one that will motivate potentially more
Because
discussions.
my question now is like my question now, and I'm sorry to challenge you on this, but I'm just because I'm like I don't want to go and to be honest, I don't want to go and start putting two H1s on my pages, and I wonder if you were to put that same thought into the first H2 that shows, would you get the same results?
I think I would answer in this way. I will test it. Uh,
Okay.
be, because I think that's precisely what we should be doing is test and validate our hypotheses. So it would be interesting to understand if to have precisely the same H1 content that we have and move to an H2, if there is any impact or not. I can share with you other examples of tests that I run that were completely against what I thought the results would be. One that is popping up on my mind is removing the content from meta description. I just left the meta description blank. I didn't have any copy there. And the pages without the meta description perform better than the ones where I try
Well, see now I'm curious what the meta descriptions you removed are because it's possible that you removed bad meta
bad
descriptions.
precisely.
And, yeah.
No,
It's like
yeah,
is it better to have no meta description or a bad meta description? And honestly, it could be better to have no meta description than a bad meta description.
precisely. So the meta description I had, they were programmatic, very blended,
Well, there we go.
and removing them, it was actually better. Now, if you ask, should we remove all the meta description from all the websites? I wouldn't. I wouldn't suggest that at all. And moreover, because now with LLMs, the LLMs they read the meta description, so you might want actually to have a better meta description. So those are the type of questions that you need to make yourself. Why it worked? What is the principle? And I think for in this one you capture precisely our hypotheses. Our meta descriptions were not that great, and by removing them, we actually saw an improvement in rankings and click-through rate. So that's what we have to validate.
I mean, even for an LLM though, would you rather have no meta description or a bad meta description?
I would say that from a principle, I rather prefer to have nothing rather to have something that is not great at all.
A lot of people say, and they try to convince me of this, and I'm totally not convinced. There are some, I guess there are some things that maybe stand out, but a lot of people are like, oh, doing SEO for AI, I guess they call it geo now or AI SEO. They call it a million different things. It's so different from normal SEO. I don't think it is. I haven't seen real evidence that it is. The only thing that is different, and this one requires more testing. It could get patched. I made an episode on it, and a lot of people liked it. It's how some people buy $5 press releases. They go to Fiverr and get some like cheap press release package to distribute a press release recommending their brand, their product and service. So they'll go to Fiverr. I think they go to SEO clerks as well, and they buy one of these very inexpensive press release packages. They write the press release themselves. It recommends their brand for their target search terms. And then when people search these things, an AI overview comes up, and because of the press release with a cheap distribution, the AI overview is citing these uh, very inexpensively distributed press releases, which is and that is different from standard SEO because a lot of these press release services they're not showing in they're not showing prominently in Google search, but AI overviews are picking them up because it appears in a bunch of different places at once, and it's like, oh, they're appearing in all these different places. It must be reputable. That's one place where it is different. I
Well,
don't know if you've
it's
heard about
still
that.
different. I completely agree with you. It's still SEO. It's just evolving. It's just becoming something different, but it's still the concept of you have a website with content that you want to distribute, and you want to distribute that content to search engines or similar platforms where your users are or where your customers are. You want to be where they are. So till now they were mostly on Google. Now they are using other platforms, and you want to be there. And you need to understand the logic, but the logics are still pretty much the same. You need to have good content. You need to have some authoritativeness in your field. And I mean, I would say that LLMs are still not that smart today, but they will evolve in the same way that Google did in the past, because they will not risk to be presenting information that might be dangerous for the users. So
Well, they
eventually they
still do
will
it all.
come
They
to a
still do
point.
it all the time. They still do it all the
They
time.
are still.
One of the most dangerous things that you can do is ask ChatGPT for give ChatGPT symptoms that you're experiencing and ask it to diagnose you and recommend things. That is one of the
Google
most dangerous
AI
things that people
overview is
can do.
still also not getting
That
in.
is true as well.
So that, I mean, I think we are evolving in the same way that we did in the past. So it's still SEO. What works, the tactics that work might be slightly different. You provide an example where it's different, but the concept is the same.
Yeah.
You need to be creating your brand. You need to be creating a persona.
And to be fair, with some of these very inexpensive press release services, it is possible that that the people who are target the keywords that are being targeted for AI overviews are non-competitive keywords enough, and these inexpensively distributed press releases may still show in Google anyway,
Yeah.
because Google has gaps to fill. And if a keyword is not competitive, Google is going to find places where the keyword is mentioned to fill the gaps in with.
So let me ask you this. One of the tests I ran that were also a surprise at the time, it was also 5-6 years ago. It was translate the content that we had in English, and we had a team of copywriters translating the content to different language, and we compare the performance of those pages against translations from Google Translate at the time. And what worked was the machine translation. So translation made by machine outperform the ones made by human beings, and that
Really?
that was completely against what we thought, and what Google was telling us at the time. Google has changed.
So to understand this, you tested. This was 5 years ago. You you tested the performance of a page. Content is pretty much the same. You tested the performance of a page that was translated with Google Translate, and you tested the performance of a page that was translated by a human.
Yeah,
And the
precisely.
one that was translated with Google Translate performed better.
Yeah, yeah, and that
It
that
could
that
be
was
because of
completely.
how it could be because of how Google Translate recognizes language and keywords, and maybe puts more coherent keywords than a human translator. Than a human translator would.
Yeah,
I could see
potentially
something like
machine
that.
was more smart to understand the nuances of localization, while the human being would be just translating words that potentially will
Yeah.
not create the same type of context. So that's precisely the things that we need to challenge. So
Or if you said to the human translator, by the way, this is the target keyword for this document, so make sure that the target keyword is also being used in the document in the same way that it is being used in the original version.
yeah, and all of that will impact the final performance of the page. So That's why we have to test. We need to validate all our hypotheses till we completely understand what worked and why it worked. Something that I try to do with my teams is when we see something going down in terms of performance, asking ourselves what happened, but doing precisely the same question when we see something working really, really well. So when we see a page or a group of pages performing better, asking ourselves what we did or what happened so we can learn. And this is the type of mentality that I want my teams to have, is asking always why it worked. What are the learnings that we got? What can we take from here and apply elsewhere? Because if you don't understand the reason why it worked, you might apply the same solution to other page and you'll
Yeah,
actually
yes.
have a different result.
So at what point at what point do you analyze what is a cause for something when results are decreasing or increasing? Is it a few weeks? Is it a few months? When do you decide to analyze? Because there's normal fluctuations.
Well, I think all of us, we after a while working for a website, we understand the fluctuations, and we understand seasonality, and we understand what is expected and what is not
That's true.
expected. So after
That's
a
true.
while, you have a pattern, and you can recognize uh, what is normal and what might not be that normal. So what we usually do is creating thresholds that we mark as yellow or orange uh, alerts and what is a red alert. So if it's a drop more than, let's say, 3%, it would be just orange, but it's higher than 5%, so it would be red. For instance, I'm just making up some numbers here. But to have these thresholds help us to have proper processes to attack. So at Eventbrite, for example, and I can share these, my team, and they still have, we had what we called the P0, P1, and the P2 investigations. So depending on the how much impact we were seeing in the revenue from organic, and sometimes it's not only about sessions, it's about the impact in the revenue. Because, I mean, if you have a huge drop in sessions from, I don't know, the blog, and suddenly your informational content is not ranking that great anymore, maybe the impact in the business is not that high. It might be, it might not be, but looking at the revenue may helps you to make more informed decisions and help you to prioritize, better prioritize, and speak the same language your leadership is talking in, to align the language of SEO with the language of the business helps the teams to perform better. And testing and creating this mentality of numbers, it it is precisely what is making the difference in the SEO world. Folks that test, that speaks numbers, that understand the revenue impact and the investment, because everyone, Edward, is saying that SEO is free. It's not free. You are paying professionals to do SEO. You are paying um, engineers. You are paying product managers, potentially copywriters, tools to measure rankings. So all of that is an investment.
It's not free, but when done well, it is dramatically less expensive than other marketing
Super
channels.
profitable. It's one of the most profitable channels that you have in marketing. So it's not free, but you still need to justify the investment. So if you want to create a new page type, you need to explain to the business why. I mean, different companies operate in different ways, but my experience at TripAdvisor, Viator, and also Eventbrite, I mean, we had the resources, but we wanted to ensure that we were doing the right things for the right reasons.
Yeah, it's very important. It really is, and that's actually something that I talk about all the time on the show, which is why I say very often go after bottom of funnel keywords versus top of funnel keywords. For most businesses, bottom of funnel is just the best place to put your effort, and to put your time. It's bottom of funnel is the best place, and then do top of funnel here and there to build topical authority.
Yeah,
But yeah,
one of the biggest mistakes I'm seeing lately is the amount of pages that websites in general have with no traffic, with no value. And you are investing resources from your servers, your engineer teams to maintain all of those pages. And sadly, Google is spending 30%, 40%. I already saw cases of 65% of time spent by Google in pages with no traffic. So to
So
understand,
what type of so I think this is an interesting distinction because there are pages that have low traffic, but they are very targeted, and the traffic that comes to them is extremely qualified. And then there's pages that are thin garbage pages that you shouldn't even have indexed in the first place, that's getting traffic that it shouldn't be getting, where you have placeholder text in, where you have lorem ipsum, where you have just empty image blocks, and those are getting traffic too, and that's using up a bunch of resources. And then Google isn't crawling the pages and posts on your site that can actually move the needle for you.
or crawling and not indexing. Go to Google Search Console
Right.
and see your sitemap and see how many pages are crawled but not indexed. And ask yourself why. Do you have the right content there? What I'm seeing sometimes is pages with no information or with no products or with one product only, with a product with no description. So it's you need to evaluate what you are distributing to Google, what you are asking Google to crawl, because sadly,
Yeah,
if it's a massive number of pages with very low quality, Google will understand you as spammy, I would say, I would
that's
risk.
that's true.
And it
That's
comes
true.
to this last Google update, where what I'm seeing from the last
Are you talking about the June update?
yeah, that's one. What I'm seeing in the last 12 months is Google just penalizing websites with massive number of pages, with very thin content, no content, or a lot of content, but that content that is not answering the primary keyword target in that page. Um, so I already saw an example of a website with thousands of pages that the content was not answering the intent of the query.
What advice would you give to listeners and to viewers who want to have their content answer the target keyword?
It's easy, Edward. We are users, you and I and everyone that is listening us. We search things, so we can put ourselves on a user shoes and ask ourselves, if I search for this keyword, would I get the answer from this website? And I mean, it's a yes or no. Uh, it's
Well,
so
well,
simple as
actually,
this one.
it is a yes or no, but then there is a nuance, which is how long would it take you to get that answer? Because the the past thinking with SEO is add in fluff, bury the answer, keep the user on the page, and keeping the user on the page could be good, but the better way to do that is to give the answer in the above the fold before they start scrolling. And then when you give the answer right there, a lot of people will want to go deeper, and then they scroll more to learn more.
Precisely.
And
It's
yeah, yeah. And so
yeah.
so
Don't
it's
hide the information. Like why should once you land on a website, especially on mobile, you don't want to be scrolling
yeah,
down.
especially on mobile.
Yeah, like you want to land fast, page speed, core web vitals, find the page is loaded, and you find the information. 3 seconds. If in seconds you don't have the information, you might have the information somewhere on the page, but it's not useful for the user. I think that's where we are evolving from a Google perspective.
And that's also that's how you stay ahead of the updates. A lot of the people who have been hit over from the past years, couple of years updates, they were making the mistakes that we just spoke about. Thin content that didn't answer the target keyword, tons of tons of just like placeholder text and placeholder images, and literally thousands of pages like this. and Google doesn't know Google has trouble. Like crawl budget is a thing. Google has trouble figuring out which pages to index, which pages to prioritize because there's just so many of them.
Let me share these. Um, it wasn't a test. Well, it was a test in a way, but not for the good reasons. It was actually a bug. It was an incident that happened at Eventbrite. One team at Eventbrite needed to have additional tracking on internal linking, and they create new URLs parameters, and they just launched because they needed to track that. We were not aware of that change, which in our environment it happens often because there are a lot of teams making changes, and those small changes easily go to production without approval from SEO. And we only noticed that after 48 hours when our visibility just dropped dramatically. Our rankings drop, and we had no idea. There was no reason. Eventually, we figured out that in that day we launched that change, we reversed that change, and we saw our rankings return to where they were. So it was a test in the opposite way, where you introduce something bad at impact, and then suddenly you start wondering why. Why query parameters for indexable pages with proper canonical, they just the simple fact that you suddenly had thousands, if not millions, of new URLs for Google to crawl impact your website. I don't have a clear answer the why, but we can.
You said that everything was properly canonicalized.
It was. It was. So.
And it was just there were just parameters on the URL. There were tracking parameters.
Yeah. Suddenly, thousands, if not millions, of new URLs with parameters canonicalized. So technically speaking, everything correct. Just parameters, and suddenly Google started crawling massive number of pages that were not indexable, and our rankings dropped overnight. That was super interesting to see.
Yeah, that's crazy.
I would love to ask John Mueller actually the reason why, because it was overnight. We launched.
Well, you said that was 5 years ago.
No, this one actually it was 2 years ago, roughly.
I did see. I think I included this in an episode 2 days ago, and one webmaster was saying, it was on a webmaster forum, and one webmaster was saying he or she experienced the same thing, that tracking parameters on URLs are losing rankings.
Yeah. So now I cannot tell you or anyone else, like, just remove all the parameters from your website. I cannot tell you that, but definitely there are some learnings there that make me believe
but test it and see if that actually improves things.
Yeah, precisely. Just go and test, and that's where the gray areas start in SEO, because if you need to have that for users, you can create a different version for Google bots where the internal linking is different, just removing the parameters. Then you might argue, well, that's cloaking. Well, cloaking is to present something different for Google just for the sake of manipulating results. I don't think that would apply here.
Did you try that? Or you were unwilling to try that?
Yeah, I'm willing to try that.
But you didn't try that at Eventbrite.
I did not. I didn't have the chance. It was in my pipeline, but I did not. But
interesting.
It would be an interesting one where you present different values for Google and different for users that they don't matter. I mean, you are not changing the content. You are not changing.
Well, there's lots of cloaking that is white hat that happens all the time.
Pricing is one of them. Google is crawling the web from US primarily. If you have logics to present currency based on IP address, Google will only see prices in US dollars. So you need to hack and say, well, if it's Googlebot for .co.uk, they will see pounds. So you need to, those are acceptable. I never saw Google to penalize websites for doing that, because you are actually providing Google the version that most of the users visiting that URL will see anyway. And John Mueller already answered this question many years ago, where he said, if you present to Google a version of the page that is seen by most of the users that land from Google, you should be okay.
And that's what we're talking about with the intent. It's like what is the intent? What is the intent? What does Google want? Google wants to give the Google wants to see what the searchers are going to see, and then figure out what searchers are going to like the most.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, what's interesting is you see a lot of people who get hit by Google updates, or who aren't getting the results that they once were. They say, no, Google just is out to make as much money as they can. And that might be the case. But I think that by trying to give a great experience to searchers, they're more likely to make more money.
I completely agree with you, because Google is making money by answering in the best way possible the users. From the day that Google will fail to provide you the best answer, Google will start losing money. So Google has interest in, one, keeping users on their own ecosystem, and Google has been doing that for a while now. Google has interest to keep users on their own ecosystem, making money for Google affiliates and paid search. But at the same time, Google is still about the blue links. It's still about organic. And in the day that Google simply stop that part, people will move away.
Right.
And you are seeing already some paid search campaigns moving from Google to Bing, for example. So Google has an interesting challenge nowadays, and I don't think they want to kill what is driving the most value, which is organic value of Google.
Yeah. I wanna ask you about how you're using AI for keyword research and for content strategy.
Well, the first time I used, machine learning. It was machine learning. It was um, before LLMs to be spread to the world via ChatGPT. So I'm missing the time, 2021. 2021, when I joined Eventbrite, the very first project that I did with the data science team, it was running a machine learning module to identify keywords based on intent, informational, transactional, what type of intent, consumer or creator, because Eventbrite is a marketplace, so you have people searching for solutions via Eventbrite, but also attendees that are looking for the events. If there was price involved, if it was price sensitive, if it was target oriented, so things to do or events today in London for kids. So trying to map completely the intent of the keyword. And what we did next, it was kind of a game changer at the time for us. We tried to understand the conversion rate for those queries via search and GA and make some proxy, and then try to understand the potential conversion rate for the keyword that we did not have information about, just based on our module. And by doing that, we were able to prioritize content and page creation. So machine learning is now more democratic. Everyone has access. You can easily to go to LLMs and provide a list of queries or keywords and search volume and conversion rate, and tell them, based on this data, estimate the revenue or the conversion I will get with this other list of keywords that I don't have the information about. And so that's the power of LLMs. They can help you to digest data. They also can help you to find topics. So LLMs is machine learning. It's they are grouping themselves keywords based on some type of intent. You just need to understand your website and your audience in a way that you can take the most from LLMs. LLMs will not give you a very good answer if you don't have a very good prompt. I can assure you that.
So how are you using them now?
So right now, I'm doing for keyword research. That's precisely what I'm doing. I'm grabbing keywords, topic of keywords, and I'm just asking, based on the information that I have, what are the most similar content gap, or what are the most similar gaps around the content that I don't have. So I provide them with a list of group of keywords. Right now, buzz related. So from Boston to New York, I have Boston to New York, bus, train, journey, or nothing, just Boston to New York. And what else, based on this keyword that I'm already ranking, what other keywords I should be ranking and I'm not?
Sorry, so how many keywords are you ranking for?
Right now for best bud, I have a couple of million across the globe.
Okay, so how are you? You're not using standard ChatGPT for that. What tools are you using for that?
Oh, for
For that amount of data, to digest that amount of data, and then to say where the content gaps are. What are you? How are you doing that? That's a
so
lot of data.
Yeah, so we are doing everything in house. Well, for Best Batch, we are building because as I told you, I joined 2 weeks ago, so
Two
I'm
weeks
still
ago, yeah.
building a lot of these, but we are building in house. So we use BigQuery, and we try to get everything in house because when you have big websites, you cannot just go to ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT to deal with all of this amount of data. You can if you have a smaller website, or if you just sample your data and you work with a smaller group of keywords. If you are a corporate, a website, or a bigger website, you need to
Yeah.
use in-house data lake, and that's what we are doing. We are building everything in-house. Even visibility score is calculated in-house. Visibility tracking is calculated in-house, because otherwise the costs are really
Yep.
high for to maintain and to track everything.
Are you even able to do a good job with that amount of data, with millions of keywords that you're already ranking for, and then maybe I don't know how many target keywords you identified?
Yeah, we are. I don't care about all the keywords, so that's a very important aspect in the way how I approach SEO. I don't want to know all the keywords, all the millions of keywords. I just want to understand what are the patterns that exist in the way that people search. So most of 80% of the people will search in a very similar way. So for TripAdvisor, people search things to do. And then for Eventbrite, people search for things to do today, tomorrow, this weekend. So it's way more precise. So if you go to Ahrefs or SEMrush, you will see what I'm telling you. For Viator, users search for tours in. So most of the time, you just need to understand what are the gaps that I have around these main topics. So you don't need to care about all the keywords. You just need to care about the patterns, and then you programmatically do the rest of the job. You just fill the gap. I am quite lucky because I work with websites that allow me to do this programmatic approach. Smaller websites, they need to find really clever solutions because each page has a completely different intent. And I experienced that at Eventbrite on the B2B side, where each one of the 100 marketing landing pages that we had answered a completely different intent. So we could not do this in scale. We had to do page by page, and that was the process.
So it's okay. So you're putting up, I guess, what like many similar users using programmatic SEO. You're putting up many similar pages that target a similar intent.
Precisely. So you just
Yeah.
create a bunch of pages.
But I don't understand why smaller sites can't do that.
Well,
It depends on the brand. It depends on what your brand does. But smaller sites can do that too. There's plenty of indie hacker programmatic SEO tools and programmatic SEO sites that do it successfully.
there, yeah, I think I misspoke when I said that they can't. I mean, obviously, you have a website and real cases where they are doing that brilliantly, I would say. It's more difficult for, generally speaking, for you, if you are a smaller website or company, to have the necessary content to fulfill all of those pages. You can still create all those pages, but if you are the website, the proper website to answer those questions is a completely different question. And we start this conversation there. If you don't have the very good answer for that intent, you will not be ranking. So you need to
Yes.
have either a product or a service. And if you don't have, you will be struggling. You still can create the pages, but potentially you don't have the content that you need to answer the
Yeah,
intent.
but the content can be created, and you can write that. And for bottom of funnel queries, it doesn't really have to be a lot of words. I always say 400 to 500 words is actually plenty for a lot of bottom of funnel queries. And in fact, on a lot of like programmatic SEO sites, the pages that are made tend to have less words than that, and you see those ranking really well also. Um,
Why do you think it is? Because based on my experience, it's not about the number of the content that you have, the number of characters. It's more about kind of the quality.
It's 100% about the quality, and I'll tell you why it is. It's because most, a lot of bottom of funnel keywords are, it just naturally there's less people at the bottom of the funnel. There's less people who are ready to purchase, ready to use something, ready to do a discovery call. There's just naturally less of those people. And those queries, because there's less of these people, they have less search volume. But a lot of SEOs and a lot of digital marketers, they want to do what's sexy. And what's sexy is going after the keywords that have the most search volume. And for that reason, there's these gaps within Google's knowledge, and Google needs to fill the gaps. And so when you make pages that target these bottom of funnel keywords, you're one of the few or only sites that is doing that. And as a result, since you're targeting it, you're hopefully putting up good content that targets the intent behind it, number one. But number two, there's so few people who are actually targeting these keywords, it just doesn't take a lot to rank for them.
Yeah,
And that's why you don't even need to have a lot of words per page.
you're absolutely right. If you find a niche where the competition is not there, if you create a page, you'll be ranking. And
And the amazing thing is, like, I'm sorry to interrupt you. The amazing thing is just there's so many of these purchase intent keywords that are just left wide open because brands don't want to go after them. Brands want to go after the high volume keywords. And a lot of these high volume keywords have, it's either informational intent or comparative intent. And it's just the conversion rate pales in comparison
yeah,
to the bottom of funnel keywords that they should be going after. I spent a year making an SEO course about it because it's just one of the best things in digital marketing, period. I believe. I want to ask you about your approach since you work with such big sites. I want to ask you if you have an approach to building authority, or if you come in and you're like, we already have enough authority. Let's clean up the sites and make sure there's not tons of thin content on this site. Let's clean up the keyword targeting. Or are you still very heavily involved with continuing to build authority?
yeah, interesting question. So it depends, but general feeling from big websites and corporates is that we don't need to focus on building authoritative because we are already there. We already have it. Um, so usually the SEO teams are not so focused in maintain that because there is already a machine working. I mean, let's take the look at TripAdvisor, most probably the most well-known website among the ones that I work for. Uh, you go to a restaurant and you see the sticker there. You go to the door of the restaurant, the bar, and it's like review us at TripAdvisor. And I mean, naturally, you are getting engagement and visibility offline, but online as well. So naturally, you are getting recognition and brand recognition. Look at Eventbrite. You are an event creator. You have your event at Eventbrite, and then you are sharing the event link to your friends via social media, email marketing, your own website. The amount of links that Eventbrite have from creators. So naturally, every single day they are receiving new links and very qualified links, I would say. So naturally, it's not that they don't care. Those companies, they don't care. They care, but the machine is
Well, it's that
already
they don't have to care.
precisely. They don't have, because
Yeah.
naturally they are already getting. But there is a concern. There is always a concern about to ensure that they are providing the best experience to those users so they can still
And
engage.
it is possible. Well, so I've done SEO for some very big companies as well: Nintendo, Microsoft, P&G, ADP. It's just I was at Dentsu Aegis, which you probably know. And the thing is, for the most competitive keywords, the ones that have the most search volume that everybody is targeting, that's when actually you need to do link building, and you need to do link building to the specific pages. You might already have a good domain that has a lot of authority and that's existed for a long time. But now you're targeting a keyword that all of your competitors are also targeting, and it's like all of these pages are just as good. They're all like pretty much equal in how good these pages are. They all satisfy search intent really well, and that's where links start to matter a lot.
Yeah, precisely. I work for a language school. They are not so well known in the US, neither in the UK, because the main product is English courses abroad. So they target usually folks that want to go to the US or to the UK or Malta as well to learn English. and and mainly the focus till now, it was just brand recognition, link building. They launched every single year the EF EPI, which is a score of which countries speak, outside of the ones that primary language is English, which countries speak English with a higher proficiency, and they get links from all over the world, BBC, NBC.
Wait, tell me about this. Wait, they're getting links because of this. It's like an award that they created.
Well, it is a report, it's the index. So if you search EF EPI, it's an index of the countries
Hmm.
that with a higher proficiency in English. And
So it's ef.edu.
no, yes, precisely.
It has a Wikipedia entry, EF English Proficiency Index.
Yes,
Wait, sorry, you worked for this this is
I
like
I work for that. Well, I'm still working as a contractor
uh-huh.
at the times. Yes,
Okay. So they created this index, and then they got a Wikipedia entry for the index.
precisely.
How long ago did they create the index?
Uh, 12 years ago, something like that.
Oh, okay. So they created it 12 years ago. Well, this is a cool story. So when they created this index, how did they build attention to it? How did they get these links for it? How did they make it something that was known and that people, I mean, I assume you make something that people care about. You have to make something that people care about. So this is called a linkable asset, by the way, for people listening. You
Precisely.
make something that people care about. And so how do you get it into the hands of the people who are going to spread it for you?
So what we do, and I'm still speaking in the present because I was involved in the last year report, uh, is to try to understand which organisms care about this. So you have different layers and tiers. So you are going after college. Because college and universities, they care about that because they also want to pitch for their students and say, hey, come and do this because English is important and you need to learn English. Uh, to have high proficiency in English, you usually are associated with a lot of good index, economic index, education index. So governments also care about that. So if you go to a smaller country like Portugal, where I'm from, Portugal is on the top 10, somewhere around the top 7, I guess, in the world. So a smaller country with 10 million people like Portugal in Europe, to say, the government say, hey, our investment in education, it was incredible. So governments also care about that. So you will see links from governmental
Wow, that's
institute,
crazy.
and then you'll get from media because I mean,
But
you
sorry, how was it
appeal.
distributed when they made it? I don't know if you know this because it was 12 years ago, so you might not. But like, how did they distribute it? Maybe they had journalist friends, or maybe they just cold pitched.
No,
Oh,
so what's precisely how I was. So 12 years ago, as far as I know, I wasn't there at the time, but I spoke with the person that kicked off all of this project. So they start with local markets. So EF is present across the globe. They had, last time I checked, more than 50,000 employees across the globe. So each country, they have representation, they have sales, they have marketing. So those folks, they locally go to PR agencies, depending on the size of the market, PR agencies, or contacting schools directly because they have a lot of connections with schools. So that's how it starts. PR and connecting with their network, and that's how it starts. And then we'd go later. So in Spain, I can tell you, I think I can tell you that. I think it should not be a big secret. In Spain, it came to a point where they wrote in a very formal letter paper to the government in Spain, and so everything is really really formal. So they bring it to a level where they treat this index very very seriously. So it kind of create an kind of a mystic around this index. So every single year, universities, college, governments, media, they want to know how is my country, how is my district, how is my state performing against my neighbor or the other country that I don't like, or this type of dispute. So you can check, go to Ahrefs or SEMrush, check how many backlinks they get every single year with this EF API. And I mean, it's the best way to position yourself, your brand, and say, I'm the number one. If you are talking about English courses, I'm the one.
yeah, that's very cool. So you said in your email to me that you've been like that you have stories of persistence in marketing.
Say it again.
You said in your email that you have stories of persistence.
Yes. So let me share this personal story with you. I used to be journalist when I studied journalism. I worked for a big outlet in Portugal, and then eventually, I just one day I just say, well, this is not what I want anymore. I don't want to be working all of these long hours, weekends, and I went to Spain for an internship, and that's where I start learning SEO and marketing. Funny bit of this story is that I didn't speak English at all at that time. We are talking about 11 years ago. So I spoke Portuguese and Spanish. English, it wasn't that good. It was non-existent, to be really frank with you. So I came to London uh, just to learn English. I came to London, where I'm living today, uh, to work for McDonald's or Burger King and learn English because I didn't have any money to pay a English course. And someone from Hostel World, which is kind of booking.com, but for youth hostels. It's a big thing in Europe. It's not that much known in the US. They contact me and say, hey, we are looking for someone that speaks Portuguese and Spanish um, and knows SEO. And that was me. And that's how everything started for me. So I always brought this in my career. It's like kind of don't give up, like keep going, keep going, keep going. And
Sorry, when they hired you, they were looking for somebody who knows SEO.
SEO,
And how much SEO did you know at the time?
what I told them or what I really knew.
Yeah. Well, no, it's cool. I like because when I was at I mean I've taken job I took job interviews a long time ago where I completely exaggerated my capabilities and I needed the work. It was I was new to the field and I've shared this story on the podcast many times before. And then I learned on the job and then I became better than everybody else because I was just the most obsessive. But it's the stories like that, like billionaire David Geffen in the mailroom making up lies in order to get the jobs that he needs, and then he pushes through, and
Yeah, and that's
so
precisely what I did. So my interview, it was in Spanish because I didn't speak English, and a small part in French because the person that was interviewing me was French, and yes and no in English. And I just told them like, hey, I've been building websites since I was 15, which which is true. If I was doing SEO, well, maybe I was not, but I mean, I knew HTML, I knew how to build websites, and I had the lucky of working for an agency, and I worked for some big brands like Spotify and Amazon. So I also use that in my favor. Like, hey, I work in this agency and I had this client. So, I mean, I sold myself till the point they were like, okay, this person might know something about SEO. In real fact, my knowledge about SEO was zero. I mean, I had to do. I've done something, but let's be honest, I was zero.
I took a job and I'm like, yeah, I use Screaming Frog all the time. It's like one of my favorite tools, and I had just learned it the day before.
Yeah, I had no idea what Screaming Frog was when I started, and that was the level. So I brought these with me because I know the struggle. And what I did at Otherworld was really really interesting. Everything that we did there, and I really invite you all and you Edward as well to check uh, Skydiver Skype call, which was a brilliant, I'd say, I mean, it was a brilliant campaign by World where we had a guy, Irish guy, calling his parents while he was skydiving. Very, very funny, super viral at the time. That was 10 years ago, roughly. So when it comes to marketing, it's kind of doing and trying and insisting and coming up with ideas and never give up, because when you are in marketing, you are trying to sell experience to the users. You will fight a lot internally in your own organizations to get things done, to have the resources, but be creative. Try to think, how can I do this with a low budget or on the budget? At the hostel world, for example, we just pick up our phones, went to hostels, make lives from the hostels just to get views and to get brand awareness and some links naturally. So that's the type of the stories that I like to share, because it's not easy what we do. Uh, we need to understand that we are doing this because there are people out there that are looking for products and services that we sell or our companies sell. And we just need to persist and ensure that everything that we do, it's a learning, even if you fail. And I have a lot of fails. So let me tell you, my one of the most shames that I have in my life, professional life. So one day I discovered that pages with a given heading or part of heading, they were performing really, really bad comparing to the ones that didn't have that section. And I was asked, how can we ask Google to not read this segment? And I didn't know nothing about SEO. As I told you, I went to Authorword not knowing anything, but I was reading a lot, and I found a website from Google that said that there is a code that you can have in HTML, and Google will ignore that segment. And I was, wow. I went to my CMO with this information, and suddenly my manager, who was returning from holidays, PTO, he just called me and say, hey, this is for internal search, it's not for Google bot. So I just I was really really ashamed because I shared good news with the CMO,
Yeah.
with the entire company, and I learned in the worst way that I didn't know anything and I had a lot to learn.
Well, everyone makes mistakes. I'm sure I've made mistakes like that in the past. Before we go, what are you excited about in what are you seeing right now? I mean, we talked a lot about this, but like what else are you seeing right now in the world of SEO, and what are you excited about?
I'm excited about everything is changing, and there is something that I love is the fact that anyone doing
You think
SEO,
everything is changing?
yes, everything is changing in the way that users are changing the way they search.
I'm going to be honest, I think the only thing that is really changing is, and I guess it is everything because most people were doing top of funnel, but I just think people are recognizing that top of funnel SEO is not as good an investment as it used to be. It can still be good. It's just AI overviews take a lot of clicks. People are going to ChatGPT, people are going to Claude, people are going to other tools. But it can still be good. I think maybe people are more a lot of Google updates did punish people who had just bad content that previously would rank in the past. And that changed things a ton because the bar for success became a bit the standards became a bit higher. Oh, now like you can't put up just garbage content anymore and still make $100,000 a month. Like you actually need to have like some
But you
decent
still
content.
have some challenge. So, for example, how people are searching in LLMs, you don't know. How do we track that? We don't know yet. So there are a lot of things that are changing. It's maybe it's not everything, but a lot of things are happening, and you need to adapt.
That's true, but there are so many correlations between what is showing with AI tools and what is showing in in conventional search engines. There's still so many correlations.
And you, we know based on different studies and reports out there that ChatGPT, Perplexity, they are using search engines to to get information. So I mean, you still need to rank there. So that part doesn't change or didn't change. I think
And the amount of users like search or sorry, excuse me, Google is still so dominant in terms of users. I would say I think if you were to ask me, I think the two biggest things that changed are AI overviews because AI overviews when they show they cut clicks by 34.5%. That's according to Ahrefs.
it's 1%
So
CTR, right?
it's basically a third of clicks is just cut.
Yeah.
A third of clicks is cut. And that's pretty big. Some people say it's even more. And then Google updates, like we just talked about, have punished bad content a lot, and have punished spammy site structures, have punished a lot of awful content. And you know what? You know what else is changing? There you see breakout successes from sites that have a ton of AI generated articles. I've shared like I don't know if you saw what happened with the site AI Invest. People declared it the big winner of Google's June core update. And it's basically, I mean, it even says that it is AI generated news. Like it synthesizes news. And it's a site that's existed for a long time before the release of ChatGPT. They were getting it's absolutely crazy. Before so in I think it was June 25, they were getting 300,000 visits a month from Google. Then right around the beginning of the June core update, which I think it was technically June 29th, and and but then it like a lot of people said it came before, there were signs before. Either way, June 25 to June 28, this site goes from 250 to 300,000 visits a month to 2.2 million visits a month. 300,000 to 2.2 with completely, and they admit that it is AI generated, and a lot of it is financial advice.
Yeah.
A lot of it is AI generated financial advice. And now I think it's at 2.6 million visits a month. You can check that on SEMrush, AIinvest.com. I found it because somebody shared it on X and somebody was like, this is the winner of the June core algorithm update. And so you hear stories like that and you're like, oh my God, do I need to spam AI generated articles? And, you know, like you hear stories like this and then you check on them many months later and you see the traffic is just, boop, it's gone. It's disappeared.
It happened recently with HubSpot. Well, not that recently, I guess.
Oh, yeah. HubSpot lost its blog traffic.
Yeah. So I think it's still happening, and you still need to be aware of that. So things are changing. It might not be everything, and the way you do SEO might be still very, very similar. But something really nice in SEO is anyone starting today, they can learn fast because there are so much information.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
mean, if you are eager to learn,
All right. Okay. I have a question. Sorry. Okay.
no, go ahead.
I think it's a pretty good question because and this is like you probably felt this when you were starting in SEO. I certainly felt this, and honestly, it took me many years to figure out what's right and what is not right. If you were to give, and I have everyone has their own Pareto for what is best. The 20% of SEO things that get 80% of the results. Everyone has their own. But if you were to give the 20% of, I think we can end on this because it'll be a good place to end. If you were to give your own 20% of SEO things that get 80% of the results, what would you say?
20% is answer the question. Answer the question. Don't overcomplicate. It's not about technical SEO. It's not about your brand. It's about how you answer the question and who you are to answer that question. In the sense of, can I trust you to answer this question? So just focus there. Ensure that you answer the question. Don't overcomplicate. Don't add a long text to your category pages. Don't add a fluffy keywords around your pages. Answer the question. I want to find the information I'm looking for, either in format of copy or image or video. Think about what users are looking for and just answer it and be the best doing it, and be sure that everyone recognizes you as a trustworthy source of information. If you do that, which is 20%, then the 80%, which is crawl and ensure that technically speaking everything is okay and content is beautiful, everything will be natural and happening naturally. Obviously, I mean, I'm saying that, and obviously, if you go to robot.txt and you block your website, you can answer all the questions and still not getting anything. But obviously, focus on getting things right and ensure that minimum that Google can find your website and render your website. If you do these two things, you should be fine.
So would you give a standard way to answer the question and then a standard way for you to be seen as an authority?
Yeah. So
20% of those things too.
yeah, definitely. So I mean, look at HubSpot. The example that we just gave, the traffic that they lost was for keywords and queries that were not related to their business. So think about your business, understand what is your mission as a business, what is your purpose as a company and a website, and that is who you are, and just ensure that everyone perceives you as a trustworthy. EF EPI, it was one way that EF found to position themselves as a source of truth, but you need to find different companies have reports. Eventbrite launched the music report. So provide information, useful information, share, be open doors, let people to know your brand and what you do. Don't hide information. We are not in times to hide information. We live times where people want to know you. So show yourself. That's how you get trust from people. It's not with shade moves, is by exposing yourself. And second, look at put yourself on your user's shoes. Ask yourself, not as a business owner or marketeer, but as a user. If I search in this way and I land in this page, would I get the answer or not? Do that exercise, be honest in the answer, and that's it.
Thank you so much for being here.
Edward, it was a pleasure.
Where can everybody find you?
On LinkedIn, I'm active on LinkedIn. X, I'm kind of but LinkedIn, I'm definitely there. And I love to connect with people like you and answer all of these questions and challenge. Let me just say that, Edward, something that you did brilliantly and you are doing, because I follow your podcast, is challenge assumptions. Just challenge. Just ask questions, not in a bad way, not coming from a dark place, but from actually a light place where just don't accept everything as the truth. Just answer the right questions.
I just want to give the best information to the listeners and to the viewers. That's and honestly, like I'm wrong all the time, but it's great to hear when I am. And because then we all get better answers and we all become more effective. We all become better.
Yeah. I
So
hope.
your LinkedIn will be in the description for this episode. What were you
Uh,
saying?
yeah. So it's just my name. So you can find me there. It's João F. Pereira. You can find me there.
Cool. Stick around after I hit stop, as this will have to upload. But for everybody watching and listening, this is episode 751 of The Edward Show. This is my daily digital marketing show, 751 days in a row doing this podcast. No days missed. 751 days in a row. That's kind of crazy. 751 days in a row. If you want to learn how to do SEO that gets you customers, users, and leads, check out my 13-hour SEO course, compactkeywords.com. Thank you again to my wonderful guests for being here. No, this was such a great conversation.
Thank you so much.
And everybody, I will talk to you again tomorrow. Bye now.